The dense jungles of Borneo stretched endlessly, a tangled mosaic of green, golden sunlight filtering through the canopy in shifting patterns. To the untrained eye, it was simply a rainforest, humid, teeming with wildlife, and occasionally dangerous. But for the team of conservationists and filmmakers, it was a living cathedral, ancient and mysterious. They had come to document orangutan rescues, the daily struggle of these gentle primates against deforestation, and the rare, breathtaking footage of a rainforest largely untouched by modern civilization. First, everything seemed familiar. Cameras captured playful orangutans swinging effortlessly from branch to branch, caregivers gently coaxing rescued young ones, and hidden nests tucked in towering trees. But amid the ordinary, subtle anomalies began to emerge. An orangutan, distinct, reddish-brown, and larger than most, was observed stacking branches with meticulous care, arranging leaves and small sticks in patterns that were almost deliberate. At first, the team dismissed it as coincidence or instinct, but the behavior repeated. It used tools in a way no animal in their experience had done before. Curiosity gnawed at the group. The lead conservationist, Dr. Elena Ramon, reviewed the footage late one night and froze on a sequence where the orangutan appeared to pause, examine its work, and then make a series of marks on a tree trunk, almost like a code. The realization struck her with a mix of wonder and unease. Perhaps they were witnessing something beyond ordinary animal behavior. By dawn, the team resolved to follow the orangutan deeper into the jungle, venturing further than any previous mission. Unbeknownst to them, the forest seemed to shift around their presence. The rustle of leaves, the sudden silences, and the shadows that lingered longer than they should. It was as if the jungle itself had taken notice of their intrusion. Sequel hook. Later that day, the orangutan returned to the same tree, leaving a series of deliberate, patterned markings that made the team question. Were they observing nature, or being observed themselves? Following the mysterious orangutan deeper into Borneo's labyrinthine jungle, the team felt a strange mix of exhilaration and unease. Every step they took seemed watched. Birds fell silent overhead, and even the usual symphony of insects and frogs seemed muted, as if the rainforest itself was holding its breath. The orangutan led them along narrow, winding paths, pausing occasionally to inspect its surroundings with an intelligence that bordered on human-like awareness. Soon, the team began noticing patterns that could not be ignored. Small clearings contained tools carefully arranged, stones in precise circles, sticks aligned like arrows pointing toward specific trees, and leaves stacked in neat, geometric shapes. At first, the group argued over whether it was coincidence, a trick of perspective, or mere instinct. But as the patterns repeated, clarity emerged. These were deliberate signals, a language the forest seemed to speak, but one they could barely understand. Hidden cameras set up earlier revealed even more startling behavior. In one footage, multiple orangutans gathered in a small clearing, communicating with gestures, subtle vocalizations, and synchronized movements that suggested planning and coordination. The team watched in awe as it became evident. These were not ordinary animals. They were sentinels of something larger, something ancient and aware. Tension grew as members began to question their own perceptions. Shadows seemed to move just beyond their sight, and the rustling leaves sometimes formed shapes that mimicked human figures. One evening, the orangutan they had been following approached a camera and touched the lens with deliberate care, as though acknowledging the humans behind it, or issuing a silent warning. The forest around them seemed to pulse with intent, alive in a way that defied all logic. Sequel hook. By nightfall, the team realized that the jungle was no longer a neutral backdrop. It was an entity in itself, watching, testing, and possibly judging their every move. The line between observer and observed blurred irrevocably. The deeper the team ventured into the heart of Borneo's rainforest, the more the jungle revealed its hidden layers. What had once seemed like ordinary wilderness began to feel like a living, deliberate construct. Trees twisted into impossible shapes, roots intertwined to form hidden passageways, and every clearing seemed to carry a message or a challenge. Elena and her team began to suspect that the orangutans were not merely intelligent. They were guardians of something far greater, a secret kept for centuries, perhaps millennia. Their suspicions were confirmed when one of the team's trackers stumbled upon a massive tree whose roots had formed a natural archway leading into a hidden chamber. Inside, carvings etched deep into the bark depicted scenes of humans and animals in strange, harmonious collaboration. Ancient tools, worn and polished, rested in alcoves, while patterns resembling star maps and cryptic symbols hinted at an advanced understanding of nature, time, and the world beyond the forest. The orangutans moved gracefully around the chamber, almost reverently, as if protecting the archive from intruders who might misuse it. A mix of awe and fear gripped the team. Some felt honored to witness the rainforest's living memory. Others, like cameraman Marcus, shivered at the thought that this knowledge had been quietly observing humanity long before they arrived. As they explored, subtle traps became evident. Vines arranged to trip intruders, misleading paths, and symbolic markers that warned of consequences for careless trespass. Every step required thought, respect, and humility. The forest demanded it. By night, a strange hum echoed through the dense canopy, resonating from a structure that appeared almost mechanical, hidden among ancient trees. Its low vibration seemed alive, pulsing in harmony with the forest itself. The team exchanged uneasy glances, realizing that whatever awaited them deeper inside was no accident. Someone or something had anticipated their arrival. Sequel hook. The jungle's secrets were no longer just a discovery. They were a test, and the forest was watching closely, ready to reveal its full power. As the team pressed deeper into the rainforest, a chilling realization began to take hold. They were not merely visitors. They were subjects under scrutiny. Every vine that seemed to shift unnaturally, every shadow that lingered too long, and every sudden silence reinforced the notion that the forest itself had an intelligence far beyond their understanding. The orangutans, once companions and guides, now appeared as vigilant sentinels, monitoring their every move with an almost strategic awareness. Signs of anticipation became undeniable. Paths they thought they knew twisted into confusion, familiar landmarks vanished, and tools they had left behind were rearranged in cryptic formations. The team's unease turned to fear when one member, a young field assistant named Rafi, disappeared without a sound. All that remained was a small carved warning on a nearby tree, symbols that none could fully interpret at first, but whose meaning slowly dawned on them. The forest had rules, and trespassers who ignored them could vanish like Rafi. Elena and the remaining team members were forced to rethink everything they knew about survival. It was no longer enough to navigate physically. They had to anticipate the intelligence guiding the jungle. The orangutans led them through the foliage with precision, their gestures deliberate, almost instructive, suggesting the path forward while teaching them caution. Every step demanded respect, observation, and intuition. One night, while deciphering the carvings left near Rafi's disappearance, Elena's team uncovered a message that chilled them to the bone. "You are the studied now." The words were simple but carried immense weight, confirming what their instincts had already whispered. Humanity was no longer the observer. It had become the observed, and the forest was the patient, calculating teacher. Sequel hook. As the team grappled with this unsettling truth, they realized that their survival depended on understanding the forest's intelligence, not merely escaping it. The final lesson, and the forest's full power, was yet to be revealed. The rainforest no longer felt like a wild, indifferent place. It felt alive, aware, and demanding respect. Elena and the remaining team members moved cautiously, fully aware that every sound, every shadow, every footstep was being observed. The orangutans, once guides, now acted as the forest's agents, silently ensuring that humans understood the unspoken rules of this ancient world. The team realized their presence was no accident. The forest had been waiting, watching, and judging. As they pressed onward, subtle signs reinforced the truth. Rivers shifted slightly from their usual paths, trails seemed to vanish and reappear, and birds circled overhead in patterns that felt deliberate. The team pieced together fragments of carvings, symbols, and behaviors from the orangutans and slowly began to understand a deeper message. This jungle was a living archive, a guardian of knowledge and history, preserving the mistakes and triumphs of humanity. The forest demanded humility, respect, and understanding, not intrusion. When they finally reached a hidden clearing, the team saw it. A vast, natural amphitheater where sunlight illuminated carvings, artifacts, and patterns too complex to be random. The orangutans gathered at the edge, silent and watchful. Elena understood what needed to be done. They could leave only if they proved themselves worthy, demonstrating reverence for the forest rather than the ambition to exploit it. Carefully, they documented, studied, and retreated, avoiding unnecessary interference, their actions deliberate and mindful. As they exited the jungle, the forest seemed to respond. Paths shifted, rivers redirected, and the undergrowth whispered with the movement of unseen eyes. The sense of being observed never left. In the final moments, Elena glanced back and saw a close-up of an orangutan's eyes reflecting the team's figures. The gaze was calm, yet profound, hinting that this encounter was only the beginning of a new understanding between humanity and the ancient, living intelligence of the jungle. Final hook. The rainforest had preserved its secrets, but it had also sent a clear message. Humanity was no longer the observer alone. The watchers were awake.